So in the last lecture we have seen classical theory or Langevin's theory of paramagnetism, and in that we have arrived at the result that paramagnetic susceptibility is inversely proportional to the temperature. This particular fact is called as the Curie law. Okay, this particular fact is called as the Curie law. Now there are several disadvantages or limitations of this Langevin's theory also, because initially itself we have considered that whatever paramagnetic material we are considering, we have assumed that this paramagnetic material may be treated as in the form of gas, paramagnetic gas. Okay, and then we said that individual spin of individual dipole moment do not interact with the other dipoles in that particular gas, because we had considered the gaseous system. So actually whenever we obtain the value of paramagnetic susceptibility for various material, it agrees with the paramagnetic susceptibilities of gaseous material only. Okay, but if you take the some solids, okay, if you take many solids, many crystals, okay, some cooled gas, in that case even if we calculate the paramagnetic susceptibility, then that paramagnetic susceptibility or the value of that paramagnetic susceptibility do not match with the experimental value. Okay, so this is one of the limitation. Again, it does not explain that what is the intimate relationship between paramagnetic materials and ferromagnetic materials. Okay, so there is intimate relationship between paramagnetic and ferromagnetic, that why a particular type of ferromagnetic materials becomes paramagnetic when there is an increase in temperature. So that particular fact was also not explained by this Langevin's theory. So there are so many failures of this Langevin theory. So some corrections were made, and that corrections were made under the title of quantum theory of paramagnetism. Okay, so classical theory of paramagnetism is not that much accurate, so we have to now discuss quantum theory of paramagnetism. Quantum theory of paramagnetism. Okay, so what this quantum theory has given to this theory of paramagnetism? So the first thing is that we know that in the classical theory of paramagnetism, what we considered that there is a applied magnetic field. Suppose this is the direction of applied magnetic field, and we considered that because of the presence of this applied magnetic field, the dipole moment, okay, or the magnetic dipoles which are already there in the paramagnetic substance, they get aligned along the direction of magnetic field. Okay, they get aligned and they will make certain angle with the direction of applied magnetic field. Okay, suppose this is the direction of mu, for example, or mu m, that is magnetic moment of any dipole. So that magnetic moment of any dipole can be oriented along the magnetic field direction and can make certain angle theta. Now classically all the allowed values are possible for theta. Okay, because we had considered that we had made several integration, and in that integration also we have done that theta may vary from 0 to 2 pi, sorry, 0 to pi. Okay, theta may vary from 0 to pi. So actually theta can take all the values ranging from 0 to pi. So any values are allowed in classical theory for the magnetic dipole moment which is oriented along the field direction. Okay, but actually we have seen the vector atom model, and in that vector atom model we have learned that every atomic orbit, suppose this is the atomic orbit, okay, so every atomic orbit is equivalent to the bar magnet, tiny bar magnet, and suppose that this is the atomic orbit, and suppose there is a electron is moving around the orbit, along the orbit. So in that case the electron will have some mechanical angular momentum. Okay, and that angular momentum is called as the orbital angular momentum, denoted by L. Then every electron will be spinning along its own axis, so it will have the spin angular momentum also, and this spin vector and L vector, they will interact and they will give us the resultant J angular momentum of individual electron. Now depending on the number of electrons, the individual L vectors will interact with the other L vectors, individual s vectors will interact with the other s vectors of the electrons in that particular orbit itself or atom itself, okay, and both will again interact to give us the resultant J. So there will be the resultant L, there will be the resultant S, and there will be the resultant J. Now let us consider that our atomic orbit is having some resultant J vector, that is total angular momentum vector, total angular momentum vector. And in that vector atom model itself, we have learned that when this atomic orbit is placed in external magnetic field, is placed in weak external magnetic field, then the orientation of J along the field direction, the orientation of J along the field direction cannot take any value, cannot take any value. In the vector atom model, we have seen that not only the magnitudes of various quantities are quantized, but in addition to that, the direction or the orientations of the orbits are also quantized. This phenomena is called as the space quantization. Now, according to the principle of space quantization, the orientation of J along with the field direction cannot take any values. It can only take certain quantized values. Okay, so all theta are not allowed according to the quantum theory. Only certain values of theta will be allowed, will be permitted. Okay, and the component of J along the field direction, the component of J along the field direction is denoted by the another quantum number, and in this case I will represent it by capital Mj. Okay, that is called as a total magnetic quantum number. This is called as a total magnetic quantum number, and the value of this total magnetic quantum number ranges from -J to +J. The value of this total magnetic quantum number ranges from -J to +J, including 0. Okay, so these many means or how many values this Mj can take? This Mj can take the values of 2J plus 1. This Mj can take the values of 2J plus 1. So these many values are allowed for Mj. Okay, and Mj is a quantized quantity. This we have to remember, right? So according to the quantum theory, all the orientations of J vector along the field direction is not possible. J vector means what? If this is the direction of J, then there will be the Mj also. When I say that the J vector cannot be, this J vector cannot take all values of theta, it also means that this Mj vector, that is magnetic dipole moment vector, also cannot take all values of theta. It can take only certain values of theta, and that depends on this quantum number denoted by Mj, and this Mj can take 2J plus 1 values. Okay, this Mj can take 2J plus 1 values. So this is the distinctive phenomena. Okay, classically all values of thetas are allowed, but quantum mechanically not all values of theta are allowed, only certain thetas are allowed. Okay, and that will give rise to the another set of quantum numbers, which is called as a total magnetic quantum number. And depending on that only, there will be the certain orientations of magnetic dipole moment along the field direction. Okay, now if this is the quantum number, that is the magnetic quantum number, then what will be the component of magnetic moment along the field direction? The component of magnetic moment along the field direction will be Mj into mu b. Okay, again there is one more factor. Okay, because depending on the number of electrons, there will be one more quantity which has to be introduced over here, and that quantity is G. That quantity is G. This is called as a Landé splitting factor. Landé splitting factor, which we have seen in the unit of atomic and molecular physics. Okay, so the component of magnetic moment along the field direction, now it will become Mj mu b into G, where mu b is the magnetic moment of that particular electron. Okay, of that particular electron or of that particular orbit, right? Now if this is the magnetic moment, then whenever there will be the alignment of the magnetic moment or magnetic dipole in the field direction, okay, it will have certain potential energy. So the potential energy acquired by that dipole, the potential energy acquired by that dipole, it will be equal to minus mj mu b into g into h. The potential energy acquired in the field H will be minus mj into mu b into g into h. Okay. Now we know that the number of dipoles, okay, the number of dipoles which are having this quantum number or which are aligned within the field direction, okay, because how many dipoles can be aligned within the field directions? Only those dipoles can be aligned within the field direction which have the quantum number given by mj, and mj can have the values 2j plus 1 values, okay. Mj, the allowed values for mj is 2j plus 1 values, right. So if this is the potential energy acquired by one dipole, how many dipoles are there which can have this quantum number? Okay, so we know that this number of dipoles which can have this quantum number is proportional to e raised to power minus mj mu b into g into h divided by kb into t, where kb is called as Boltzmann constant and t is the absolute temperature. Okay, so this will be proportional to this, right? This will be proportional to this, and suppose that now this is about one molecule, one atom or one molecule will have potential energy like this. How many dipoles will be aligned? That is given by this. Now suppose that in total there are n dipoles. In total there are n dipoles per unit volume. If there are n dipoles per unit volume, then the magnetization vector m, and this magnetization vector m will be given by, it is equal to n into integration from minus j to plus j, okay, and it is equal to, here it will be plus, because e raised to power minus e over kbt was there, so minus minus will get cancelled, so it will be plus only. So it is equal to mj mu b g into h into e raised to power mj g mu b h over kbt, okay, divided by integration from minus j to plus j and e raised to power mj g mu b h over kbt. Okay, so this integration, this particular quantity will give us the total magnetization in that particular paramagnetic system, the total magnetization in that particular paramagnetic system. Okay, yes, here there is no H, right? Okay, so this gives us the total magnetization in that paramagnetic system. Now there are two cases now, because depending on the value of this particular ratio, okay, depending on this, the value of this particular ratio, we can give the following discussion now. Now suppose that this mj, let us discuss case number 1. Now this mj into g into mu b into h over kbt is suppose less than 1. Suppose it is less than 1, it means that this mj into g into mu b into h is less than kbt. It means that kbt is greater than this value. Okay, kbt is greater than this value means what? We are discussing about high temperature. We are discussing about high temperature. Okay, so if the temperature is large, then what will be the value? So I am writing the value directly because the derivation is beyond the scope of this particular unit. Okay, so in that case the paramagnetic susceptibility, in that case the paramagnetic susceptibility will be equal to, it is nothing but m divided by h, so hh will get cancelled over there. Okay, so it is finally equal to n into g square, n into g square, it is mu b square j into j plus 1, j into j plus 1 divided by 3 kt, 3 kbt. Okay, and in short we can write this chi is equal to n into mu j square, where mu j square equal to mu b square j into j plus 1. Okay, n into mu j square. Yes, here it is also g square, right? So mu j square equal to this thing divided by 3 kBt, divided by 3 kBt. So you will see that at high temperature the value of this paramagnetic susceptibility closely agrees with the classical value. It closely agrees with the classical values. So at high temperature we can say that quantum mechanical results are similar to that of the classical results. Okay, but what will happen at low temperatures and high value of magnetic field? If we consider that the temperatures are low and the value of magnetic field is quite high, then what will happen? Then this particular case is called as a case 2, and in this we will assume that mj into g into mu b h over kBt is not less than 1. Okay, it is not less than 1 or is greater than 1 in that case. Then what will happen? In that case, the value of this paramagnetic susceptibility, or the value of the magnetization first, the value of magnetization will be given by m is equal to ms 2j plus 1, 2j plus 1 by 2 cot h function is there, again 2j plus 1 divided by twice j into alpha minus 1 over 2j, minus 1 over 2j cot h alpha divided by 2j, that's it. Okay, so this is the value of magnetization when this mj into g into mu b into h over kBt is greater than 1. Okay, is greater than 1 or it is not less than 1. In that case, this will be the value of magnetization, and this ratio m divided by ms. Okay, so if I shift this ms over here, okay, this complete bracket can be replaced by a new quantity, and it is a function, actually it is a function of alpha. This is represented by b of alpha, and here b of alpha is called as a Brillouin function. Earlier we used to have the Langevin function. Now this particular function is called as a Brillouin function. Okay, and alpha, the value of alpha is j into g, jg mu b h over kBt, right? So here the value of alpha is this thing, and m divided by ms is this particular Brillouin function. Now we can draw the Brillouin function, we can get the results. Okay, so this much results can be obtained with the help of this quantum mechanical theory of paramagnetism. Okay, so that's it. We have to deal with this quantum mechanical theory of paramagnetism up to this level only. So detailed calculations are not required as far as the unit number 5 is concerned. Okay, if you want to see the detailed calculation, you may refer the another textbook so that you can find out all these detailed calculations, right? Okay, now the next topic is Curie law. So what is Curie law of paramagnetism? That we have already seen that paramagnetic susceptibility goes on decreasing if we increase the temperature. Okay, so that is called as a Curie law. Now there is one more law which is called as the Curie-Weiss law. Curie-Weiss law. Actually this Curie-Weiss law is about the ferromagnetism. Okay, now we don't have to go about detailed theory of the ferromagnetism. We had already seen that what is ferromagnetic materials. So ferromagnetic materials are those which have permanent magnetic dipole moment present in that particular material. These permanent magnetic dipole moments are aligned in one particular direction within the domain, within some region which is called as a domain, and there are many domains within that particular materials. Okay, now if such a material is placed in the external magnetic field, then all the domains get aligned in the direction of external magnetic field. It means that all the magnetic moments get aligned in the direction of external magnetic field, and that particular material becomes permanent magnet. It acquires strong magnetism and it becomes permanent magnet. Such a materials are called as a ferromagnetic materials. Okay, such a materials are called as a ferromagnetic materials. And even if we remove the external magnetic field, then also the magnetism will be retained by that particular material. So we call such a materials as a ferromagnetic material. Now what will happen if I hit the ferromagnetic material? Okay, so if I hit the ferromagnetic material, suppose that there is a ferromagnetic materials, there is a ferromagnetic material. Now if I hit the ferromagnetic material, okay, if I increase the temperature, then there exists one temperature, one point which is called as a critical point. There exists one point which is called as critical point, okay, or it is also sometimes called as a Curie point. It is the temperature at which this critical point is there or Curie point is there. That temperature is denoted by Tc. That temperature is denoted by Tc, which is called as a critical point or the Curie point. So if you heat the ferromagnetic material up to this temperature, then you will find that ferromagnetic material behaves like a ferromagnetic material itself. But beyond the critical temperature, if you heat the material, then that ferromagnetic material turns into paramagnetic material. It turns into paramagnetic material. So this particular behavior is given by a law which is called as the Curie-Weiss law, and this law tells us that this this ferromagnetic susceptibility is directly proportional to 1 over T minus Tc. 1 over T minus Tc. So T is any temperature, okay, and Tc is the Curie temperature or the critical temperature. So if you want to remove this proportionality sign, then this chi is equal to C divided by T minus Tc. C divided by T minus Ttc. So this is called as the Curie-Weiss law. Okay. So this is about diamagnetic materials, paramagnetic materials and ferromagnetic materials. Now in the next lecture we shall discuss what is the hysteresis loop, okay, or what is the hysteresis phenomena in case of ferromagnetic material. So that is the last topic which is remained over here. Okay, thank you.